The late 90s and early 2000s were no stranger to weird or unusual games, but there's one that you will almost never see on a list of weird old games, and I think it's due for it to have its time in the weird game spotlight, 26 years after it came out. One of my favorite childhood games, with an extremely underrated soundtrack, is Frogger 2 Swampy's Revenge. This game came out in the year 2000 and arrived at the time where games were starting to have a shift in the way they were designed. The previous installment, Frogger, which came out in 1997, stuck to playing like an arcade game where you were simply trying to get the highest possible score with limited lives or under a time limit. Frogger 2 takes that in a slightly different direction, as the basics remain the same. Every level is geared around finding and reaching 5 baby frogs in the level, but the second game shakes this formula up by removing the time limit from the levels and making the levels much more linear and much bigger. But it also has an importantly weird addition which we are going to focus on today. In all of the levels, you can collect 25 coins for each level. These coins unlock extra characters and abilities for free play mode, and the last thing that gets unlocked is the Feeding Frenzy power-up. Now this power-up sounds like something that you would find either in a cooking game or a weird game involving fish, but what would this power-up be doing in a game about frogs? Well, it allows Frogger, or whichever character you are playing as, to eat just about the entire level. This isn't limited to normally edible things such as the normal power-ups, or some of the environmental things such as fish or plants. The list gets really weird really fast. Welcome to Body Count, the series where we take a look at games and see how high and how low of a body count we can rack up. Today, we're taking a look at Frogger 2 Swampy's Revenge, and we're going to have to do this a little differently. Normally, we would just count the enemies on the list, but we're going to count everything we can eat, whether it's an enemy or not. Spoiler alert, there's a lot of weird things that are going to appear on this list. Couple things to mention before we get into the run, but you will see a timer on the screen during the run, because for the Feeding Frenzy part, I played these in time attack mode and not story mode. I played these in time attack mode mainly because I wanted to showcase all the different characters throughout. I chose somewhat randomly when I went into levels, but I did play a lot as my favorite frog, Tank. Finally, I am playing mostly on the PC version of the game, which by some miracle of a tech priest, I got to run on Windows 10, but I also did do this run on PlayStation 1, because there's some differences that, for the most part, the games are the same, but when the PS1 is a little different, I'll bring it up. But just because the PC looks a lot better, most of the footage is going to be from that. Also, something I forgot to mention until I got to editing this, the PS1 version is being played on an emulator on my computer. I do own the game and own actual proper hardware for it, but trying to record that looks like this. Recording through the emulator, I can make it look like this. So for the sake of all of our eyeballs, we're going to go with the newer footage. Before we even hop into the tutorial, we can actually start the chaos in the main menu. Right after activating the power-up, we can eat 2 butterflies flying around, 2 fish, and 6 plants in the water. There's more around, but we're not quite in the range to get Frogger turned around like enough to get more. So before we even get into the first level, we start with 10. And the training level, we have more butterflies, fish, and plants, much like the main menu, but we also have a mainstay of the run being introduced here, the extra life. Throughout the levels, there are a couple different types of butterflies. The purple ones are extra lives, the light blue ones make you hop faster, and the orangish ones will let you hold down a direction and auto hop. The bright yellow butterflies that we've grabbed already aren't a type of power-up, but we're going to eat every one of them that we can. The last entree of note is that we can eat this enemy stand-in, bringing our level total to 12. In the garden, we get our first hit of frog drugs. Frog drugs is really hard to say for me for some reason. The 4 fish, handful of butterflies, extra lives, and power-ups are normal, as well as the 4 bees and 17 plants aren't that much of a stretch. Even though one of the last plants just slurps down everything in the greenhouse in one go, the weirdness kicks in when we can eat 15 lawnmowers. First, it's concerning when you have a frog that is that big when compared to a lawnmower, but when it can eat 15 of them without a problem, that's where the starts to get weird. The cherry on top of this sundae is the fact that we can eat an entire water wheel, bringing this level's total to 46, and our grand running total to 68. Boulder Canyon is where we shift away from the scenes we would normally see frogs in, and now we are going to what resembles ancient Egypt. We start out by eating an entire mummified roux, then adding to that meal a healthy amount of 11 beetles, 3 pharaoh burbs, 5 warthog things, 3 extra lives, and to top it off, 10 spears from out of this wall, and somehow we can eat the shadow of this cannonball that's coming toward us, bringing the total to 33, and already breaking into triple digits overall with 102. And I'm going to mention it here, this is the only level where I'm aware of it, but the extra lives move around sometimes. Sometimes there will be an extra life that spawns behind the start here. Sometimes one will spawn at the very end, but I ran the level multiple times and never got one to spawn at both locations at the same time. So I don't think it changes the count or anything, but it's interesting. Pyramid Climb only has a few different things that we can eat, but there's plenty of them to eat. We tack on 3 extra lives, 1 mummy, 8 blue beetles, 8 warthogs, and 11 scarabs. Most of these are just easy to find and on the main path, but there is a hidden area at the very end of the level that contains both a beetle and an extra life, bringing us to 31 for the level. Grindstone has a weird side effect to the Feeding Frenzy power-up, as not only can we add 24 spikes here at the beginning of the level, we can eat the grindstones. Just only the textures, because these grindstones can still very much run you over and flatten you. After we escape the angry spirits of said grindstones, we get to munch on 6 beetles, 12 warthogs, 6 scarabs, 3 extra lives, 18 cannonballs, and a couple fish. And we can see just how well this game was programmed, with the fish bugging out and freezing like we ate them, but we are sometimes unable to actually eat the fish even though the game thinks we did. I'm still going to count it because it only bugs out every now and then, but again, most of the footage I have, the fish got glitched. Finally, we get to add 3 more spikes, 4 more beetles, 4 more scarabs, and a mummy to finish out this level of a weird heavy diet, almost adding triple digits to the total with 92. Space Station. Yes, we have frogs in space in this game. The story makes even less sense than the Zelda timeline, but we're not going to worry about that right now. The hard part of this level is just trying to accurately describe what the f*** these aliens are. After trying to figure out what to call these alien robots, we're going to add 2 power-ups, 5 extra lives, 8 walking TVs, 8 balloon desk fan crossbreeds, 6 muscle ball things, which look very different in the PS1 version, and then 4 of what can only be described as either an X or the 5 side of a D6. However you want to describe them, we have a grand total of 33. Space Chase is the story level with the fewest number of entrees, and honestly one of the easiest levels to get like the world record in speedrun, because it's an auto-scroller. The only thing we get to eat on our loops around space are 3 extra lives, bringing our grand total so far to 261. Space Suckers. Yeah, that's the actual name of this level. I guess you could get away with a lot more back before the internet was mainstream. As much as I wish this was a level with sexy aliens, unfortunately this level is built around getting sucked through these tubes to different parts of the level. We can eat 3 TVs in the opening area, and 4 X5s, I still don't know what to call these things, in the area with the green frog. The only other things we can eat in this level are 5 power-ups and 5 extra lives. You can't eat any of the enemies in the final spiral on the PC version. I told you I'd bring it up when relevant. On the PS1 version, for reasons only known to the development team, we can eat the guts from the muncher things in both the blue frog area and at the very end of the level, and we can eat the lasers. Yeah, no, I'm still not getting the logic here. Logic aside, there's 5 each of the munchers and lasers, giving us 27, and sending us back from space with a running total at 288. Now that we've moved past the level that I made weirdly horny, you're welcome, we move right into the gold mine, where we are immediately greeted by some rats that don't look quite right, and aside from 4 scattered extra lives and a power-up, we add 14 of these rats to the list, as well as 3 of some sort of mutated spider thing. Don't worry, it's not the most abomination of an insect we have in this game. And we don't have any more enemies to add to the list, but we do have 5 pieces of trash floating in some probably radiated water, giving us a total of 27 for the level. The ant's nest, unsurprisingly, has a lot of ants for us to eat. It gets a little tricky to count them when you can eat multiple at a time like this, but I am going to count each individual ant, not just how many times we use our tongue. But because we have a lot of ants to eat in this level, I'm going to save the total for the end. We get to eat 9 bugs that the closest thing I can get to identify this is something from Australia. We have to make sure we check out the secret area after the yellow frog to grab both some extra ants and some extra lives. After crossing the leaf bridge, we add another Aussie bug, as well as a giant ant. After the blue frog, we eat the last of the 49 ants in the level and grab 6 termites and 6 more giant ants to finish finished the level with 78 bugs eaten, almost cracking 400 total so far with 393. Lava Palaver, I think I said that right, surprisingly is a real word, but I think they're using a different definition for it because I don't think this level is a lava conference. Regardless of title usage, we have some interesting items to eat in this level, starting out with 6 crabs on drugs. Then we get 15 of these fireballs that look just like cheese balls to me. I don't know if it's the fat kid in me, but these actually do look tasty. But in case that was too normal, we can eat the shadows off of the lower ones here. Along with 2 power-ups and 4 extra lives in the level, at the very end, there are 4 of what can only be called abominations that somehow survived the asteroid that took out the dinosaurs, bringing this level to 37. Disco Lab, or D15Co Lab, starts the laboratory zone, where we more often than not have to make educated guesses of what the hell the enemies are. To start, we have these flying pusher enemies, which I always thought were carrying hams as a kid. I was homeschooled, so that may have had something to do with it. Anyway, there are 18 of them in this first part, and our next takeout order is what I'm going to call dogs. Again, that's just what I called them growing up. They're vaguely dog-shaped, but not friend-shaped. There are 7 of them in this level, and aside from 3 extra lives and a power-up, the only things left for us to eat are 3 shiny cannonballs, for a total of 32. Research Facility is a level that is honestly a little hard to describe. Aside from the obvious scientific abominations, it does feel like we are breaking into a top-secret facility, but with really bad security. Aside from the setting feeling a little bit off, there are 12 vacuum cleaner thingies in the first layer along with 2 dogs. There are uneatable enemies on both the second and third floors that are legitimately annoying to avoid sometimes when you're getting all the coins, but luckily we have sentient pogo stick cameras on floor 4 to make sure we actually do eat things in the level. Remember, scientists, just because you can doesn't mean you should. That sentence goes for a lot of enemies in this game, not gonna lie. There has to be some sort of science behind a lot of the abominations and the insect levels. Anyway, there's 16 of the bouncy guys on this floor, and aside from 5 extra lives in the level, we finish out the bottom floor with just another dog and a blender fan, bringing this very weird level to 37, and almost cracking 500 total, just one short at 499. Infernal Machine is a level about climbing up a tower and being unable to eat most of the enemies in the level. Although before doing this run, I could have sworn that you could eat almost all these blenders. But we can only eat 3 of them in this level, and they're all at the very top. Aside from those, there's a dog, 2 power-ups, and 5 extra lives we can eat on the way up. And on the PS1 version, for some reason, we can eat all the lasers we pass. All 20 of them. I don't know why they don't add this to the PC version, but at least it gives me comfort that doing the PS1 run was worth it now. Just having all the lasers saves this level from being our lowest total in a while, giving us 31. Graveyard Garden is one of, if not my favorite level in the game. I'm not much for full-on horror games like Resident Evil and all the spooky games, but I just love when games with a cartoony style just inexplicably get really dark with their levels. See the entire Sly Cooper series, except the 4th one they didn't do creepy stuff, and that's why the 4th one isn't as good. They needed more black magic. That's a different video though. But other games like Cult of the Lamb, I really love. Super cartoony style, gets spooky. Pumpkin Jack, another really underrated platformer. I'm really distracting myself with this one. Anyway, I could come up with a whole list of games that fit that mold, but I don't want to detract too much from this video. The ADHD is a struggle right now. But right away in this level, we have to make sure we grab this power-up hiding behind these crates, and then we run into a enemy that we'll see pop up a few times that we can't eat any of the times. I listened to the soundtrack of this level while writing the script for this video. Turns out this was the scariest enemy for a lot of people growing up. I think the spiders in the next section are scarier, but that may just be me. Speaking of the average Australian-sized spider in the next section, we get to eat 4 of them as we enter the graveyard proper. After a second type of ghost that we can't eat, we get to feast on dismembered body parts, eating a pair of feet and 4 crawling hands. After escaping another chasing ghost, we get to eat a few rats, and although we can't eat the bats coming out of these caves, we can find a hidden power-up just hiding in here. I never knew this power-up was here as a kid. Finally, we get to finish out the level by eating my favorite enemy in the game, these axe-wielding frog knights. With 24 casualties in the graveyard, we push the total to 554. Haunted House, which I think they could have come up with a better name for in the level, but it's accurate enough of a descriptor, so I'll let it pass. We start out by eating a pair of disembodied hands and a cascade of jack-o'-lanterns before gobbling down a set of knights at the top of the stairs. Before continuing on with the level down the hallway, we have to go down the stairs on on the other side just to grab some ghosts that the game decided we can actually eat this level. Entering the hallway, we have the normal collection of enemies we've faced in the level so far, as well as a couple sets of eyes and pitfall traps here. Aside from the normal extra lives and power-ups, we can't eat the ghosts chasing us around the bedroom, but for some reason we can eat the tree casting shadows on the window. Again, I didn't even know this was a thing until accidentally pressing shift key. This game is weird. Heading down to the final area, we can eat the rats on the outside of the cauldron and eat a few pumpkins inside the bubbling witch brew. Unfortunately, we can't eat this last pumpkin with it's just out of range of our tongue, but even without that, it brings our total to 42 and sends us into the last story level. Wind Up may be the last story level, but it's not the last level we're gonna look at. There aren't actual enemies to eat in this one because it's built around just dodging lasers and some other torture devices. That doesn't mean we can't eat things though. We can eat a power-up and 2 extra lives, but we can actually eat 3 signs and 6 of these lights right off the wall. Interestingly enough, we can't eat the working lights off the walls, just the ones that can light up. Switching back over to the lower graphics on PS1, we can eat these electric coils on the walls. We can eat 18 lasers like we've been able to in most of the other laser levels, and I can't tell what's getting eaten here, but the closest that I can assume is we're eating the lost souls of the damned. Yeah, that's the best I can figure out. We have 12 of them regardless. Finishing out the story, Wind Up gives us 45 meals, bringing the story total to 641. Now that the story is done, we can head into the retro levels. I'm not really going to go over these because there's no power-ups. It's all just eating cars, like from the arcade game. And we can't even eat all of them because the retro levels are built to, as you collect more frogs, it speeds up or adds more cars. It gives us a level that are somewhat indestructible. There are 3 levels, like Clockwork, Frog Jam, and Twister don't even allow us to eat anything. Way Back When lets us eat 7 cars. Toad Road gives us 20. One Way has 13. Round the Back and Driven Back both have blackjack cars to eat. Gridlock has 17. And our final level, Blockade, has 25 cars to munch on. The retro levels give us 124 cars to eat, bringing our grand and final total to 765. Yeah, that's a whole lot more than I thought there would be heading into this run. I thought I would end up somewhere around 300. I honestly have no idea how to actually end off this video with everything that went on in the playthrough. So I'm just going to leave some shameless plugs here while I run through some extra footage from the game. If you want to see the runs of this game in their entirety, I'm going to have like a supercut version, which is going to be fun because I had the game crash on me quite a bit because it was not designed to run on Windows 10. I'll have a supercut posted on my second channel where I also upload playthroughs of other games and some game demos, sometimes with commentary, sometimes without. Sometimes I record a lot without commentary because I'm either sick, don't have a voice, or am so like incoherent from being tired after work that it's not going to turn out well. But if you like this video and managed to watch it all the way through listening to my voice, first you may want to seek psychiatric help, but leaving likes, comments, and clicking subscribe all do help me out making more videos. I'm going to try not to get sick 3 times and procrastinate and delay the next video by an extra month and a half. Yep, this was supposed to come out a whole lot earlier, but I have procrastination issues. Until the next one, this has been the Wreaker of Chaos, and let chaos reign.